Your transmission just died, and the mechanic is asking for $4,500 to fix it. You had no idea anything was wrong until your car refused to move this morning. The truth is, your transmission has been slowly dying for months, maybe even years, from 8 silent killers that most drivers never notice until it is too late. These are not dramatic failures that happen overnight. These are sneaky habits and overlooked problems that quietly eat away at your transmission's internal components. Don't skip number 7. This 2-second mistake that 90% of drivers make daily is grinding your transmission to pieces, and one day your car just won't move. Welcome to Built-In Boost, where we break down the hype, cut through the marketing, and give you the real story behind the badge. Most people think transmissions just randomly fail, but they actually give you plenty of warning signs before they completely give up. Today we are exposing the 8 silent killers that destroy transmissions so you can catch them before they cost you thousands. Ready to save your transmission? Hit that like button and let us get started. Number 1. Ignoring transmission fluid changes. Your transmission fluid is the lifeblood of your transmission, lubricating hundreds of moving parts and providing the hydraulic pressure needed to shift gears. Most drivers treat transmission fluid like it lasts forever, but it actually breaks down from heat and friction over time, turning into thick sludge that clogs internal passages. Here is what happens when you ignore that fluid change. Your car starts hesitating when you hit the gas. Shifting feels rough and jerky instead of smooth. You might notice a burning smell coming through your vents, which means your transmission is literally cooking itself from the inside out. Eventually, your car will slip out of gear while you're driving, leaving you coasting with no power. The scary part is how fast this escalates. One day your transmission shifts a little rough, and 2 weeks later you are stuck on the side of the highway with a car that will not move forward or backward. That burning smell you ignored was your transmission destroying its own internal parts from overheating. The financial damage adds up fast. When your transmission starts slipping from old fluid, you might think you can keep driving it for a while longer. Wrong. Every mile you drive on contaminated fluid causes permanent damage that cannot be reversed. What could have been a $200 fluid change turns into a $3,000 to $6,000 transmission rebuild or replacement. Most manufacturers recommend changing transmission fluid every 60,000 to 100,000 miles, but people ignore this until their car stops moving completely. Number 2. Using your car as a brake on hills. You are driving down a steep hill, and instead of using your brakes, you just let your transmission do all the work by staying in drive and letting the engine slow you down. Millions of drivers do this thinking they are being smart and saving their brake pads, but you are actually roasting your transmission alive. When you use your transmission to control your speed going downhill, you are forcing it to absorb all that kinetic energy and convert it into heat. Your transmission was not designed to be a brake system. It gets dangerously hot trying to slow down thousands of pounds of rolling metal, and that heat destroys the internal fluid and components faster than you can imagine. You will start noticing that burning smell again, but this time it happens every time you drive down a long hill. Your transmission fluid turns dark brown or black from overheating. The seals start leaking because the excessive heat makes them brittle and causes them to crack. Your transmission begins shifting roughly because the overheated fluid cannot lubricate properly anymore. The damage from overheating your transmission on hills is permanent and expensive. Once those internal seals fail and fluid starts leaking, you are looking at $800 to $1,500 just to replace seals and gaskets. If the heat-warped internal components like valve bodies or clutch packs, you need a complete rebuild, costing $3,000 to $5,000. Use your brakes on hills. That is what they are for. Brake pads cost $200 to $400 to replace, which beats destroying a $4,000 transmission. Number 3. Driving with a blocked transmission filter. Your transmission filter catches debris and contaminants before they can circulate through your transmission and damage internal components. Most people have never heard of a transmission filter, let alone know when to replace it, which is exactly why this silent killer destroys so many transmissions without warning. When your transmission filter gets clogged with debris, your transmission pump has to work overtime trying to suck fluid through a blocked screen. This creates a vacuum that starves your transmission of the fluid pressure it needs to operate properly. Your transmission starts acting like it is low on fluid, even though the level looks fine on the dipstick. You will notice your car hesitating when you accelerate from a stop sign. Shifting into reverse takes longer than usual, especially when the transmission is cold. Your transmission might slip between gears or refuse to shift into certain gears altogether because it cannot build enough pressure to engage the clutches properly. The real damage happens when your transmission pump burns itself out trying to pull fluid through that blocked filter. Once your pump fails, your transmission gets zero fluid pressure and everything inside seizes up within minutes. Replacing a transmission filter costs around $200 including fresh fluid. But when that clogged filter kills your transmission pump, you are looking at $2,500 to $4,500 for a complete transmission rebuild. Many people never even know their transmission has a filter until it is too late to save it. Number 4. Overloading your vehicle. Your pickup truck says it can tow 8,000 pounds, so you hook up a 7,500 pound trailer and think you are fine. What the manual does not tell you is that your transmission was not designed to handle maximum load day after day, especially in stop-and-go traffic or hilly terrain, where it has to work even harder. When you constantly overload your vehicle, your transmission generates way more heat than normal, trying to move all that extra weight. Every time you accelerate from a red light with a heavy load, your transmission has to slip its clutches longer to get moving, which creates friction and heat that slowly cooks the internal components. You might not notice anything wrong at first, but your transmission fluid starts breaking down faster from the excessive heat. Your transmission begins shifting later and harder because it needs more power to move the heavy load. The torque converter starts shuddering under the strain, and you feel vibrations through your seat when accelerating. When transmissions fail from overloading, the damage is usually catastrophic. You need a complete rebuild costing $3,500 to $6,000 because multiple internal components fail at once from the accumulated stress and heat damage. Know your vehicle's real-world limits, not just the numbers in the manual, and your transmission will last twice as long. Number 5. Ignoring early warning signs. Your transmission starts with a tiny leak under your car that you notice but decide to ignore because it is only a few drops. That slight hesitation when shifting from park to drive seems minor, so you keep driving. The weird whining noise only happens sometimes, so it cannot be that serious, right? These early warning signs are your transmission, literally begging you to pay attention before something expensive breaks. That small leak means a seal is failing, and every drop of fluid you lose makes your transmission run hotter and work harder. The hesitation during shifts means your clutches are starting to slip because they cannot get proper pressure. That whining noise is your transmission pump struggling to do its job. Most people ignore these warning signs until they become impossible to ignore. By then, that small leak has turned into a puddle that empties your transmission overnight. The hesitation has become complete slipping where your engine revs but your car barely moves. The whining has turned into grinding sounds that mean internal components are destroying each other. When you catch transmission problems early, you might spend $300 to $800 fixing a leak or replacing a solenoid. When you ignore those same problems until they cause major damage, you are looking at $3,000 to $5,500 for a complete transmission rebuild. Your transmission talks to you through these early symptoms. Start listening before it stops talking altogether. Number 6. Cold weather, quick starts. You jump in your freezing cold car on a winter morning, fire it up, and immediately throw it in drive to get moving because you are running late. This daily habit is slowly murdering your transmission because cold transmission fluid is thick like honey and cannot protect internal components properly. When transmission fluid is cold, it flows like molasses through your transmission's internal passages. Your pump struggles to circulate this thick fluid, which means your clutches and bands do not get proper lubrication or hydraulic pressure. You are essentially asking your transmission to work at full capacity while its lifeblood is too thick to do its job. Cold transmission fluid also cannot absorb heat effectively, so everything inside your transmission runs hotter than normal until the fluid warms up. This creates a dangerous cycle where your transmission generates more heat than the cold fluid can handle, leading to premature wear on seals, gaskets, and internal components. You will notice hard shifts and delayed engagement when your transmission is cold, but these symptoms disappear once everything warms up. Most people think this is normal, but you are actually damaging expensive internal parts every single morning. Letting your car warm up for just 2 to 3 minutes allows your transmission fluid to thin out and start flowing properly. This simple habit prevents thousands in damage. A $0 warm-up routine beats a $4,000 transmission replacement from years of cold start abuse. Number 7. Shifting while still moving. You are backing out of your driveway, and before your car comes to a complete stop, you shift from reverse into drive to save time. This 2-second mistake that almost every driver makes is grinding your transmission's internal components to pieces, and most people have no idea they are doing thousands of dollars in damage. When you shift from reverse to drive while your car is still moving backward, you are asking your transmission to instantly reverse the direction of all its spinning internal parts. Your clutches slam together trying to stop the backward motion and immediately start forward motion. This creates massive shock loads that your transmission was never designed to handle. You might hear a slight thud or feel a jolt when you do this, but inside your transmission, metal components are literally crashing into each other. Your clutches get burned from the sudden engagement, your planetary gears take a hammering, and your torque converter gets shocked with forces that slowly crack internal parts. Watch what happens in parking lots everywhere. Drivers back out of spaces and slam into drive before stopping. They do this multiple times per day without realizing they are destroying the most expensive component in their car, besides the engine. The damage builds up invisibly over time. Your transmission might handle this abuse for months or years, but eventually something expensive breaks. When clutches fail from this kind of shock loading, you need a complete rebuild because the damage spreads to multiple internal systems. Coming to a complete stop before shifting costs you 2 extra seconds, but saves you $3,500 to $5,000 in transmission repairs. Number 8. Using the wrong transmission fluid. Your transmission needs a very specific type of fluid to operate properly, but most people think transmission fluid is transmission fluid and just grab whatever is cheapest at the auto parts store. Using the wrong fluid specification is like putting water in your gas tank. It might work for a little while, but it will destroy everything eventually. Different transmissions require different fluid viscosities, friction modifiers, and additive packages. Your Honda needs a completely different fluid than your Ford, and mixing them creates a chemical cocktail that attacks seals and clutches from the inside. The wrong fluid cannot provide proper lubrication or hydraulic pressure, which means everything inside your transmission starts wearing out faster. You will notice erratic shifting patterns and delayed engagement when you use incorrect fluid. Your transmission might slip between gears or refuse to shift at certain RPMs because the fluid cannot create the proper friction characteristics your clutches need to engage smoothly. The damage from wrong fluid happens fast and cannot be reversed. Your seals start leaking within weeks because incompatible chemicals make them swell or shrink. Your clutches burn up because they cannot grip properly in fluid that lacks the right friction modifiers. Flushing out wrong fluid and refilling with correct specification costs $200 to $400. But once that wrong fluid damages your internal components, you need a complete rebuild, costing $3,000 to $5,500. Always check your owner manual for the exact fluid specification your transmission requires. There you have it, 8 silent killers that destroy transmissions every single day. These are not dramatic failures that happen overnight. They are sneaky habits and ignored problems that slowly eat away at the most expensive part of your car. Your transmission does not randomly fail. It dies from these 8 preventable mistakes that cost nothing to avoid but thousands to ignore. The difference between a transmission that lasts 200,000 miles and one that dies at 80,000 miles is simply avoiding these silent killers. If this video just saved you from a $4,500 transmission replacement, hit that like button and subscribe for more ways to keep your car running without emptying your wallet. Drop a comment about which silent killer you have been doing. We will help you stop before it gets expensive. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.